All right, so if you have some questions about those pictures, they will be answered because we are going to each share something about what we did this week, and we've broken it down for everyone. So I'm going to be sharing about Sunday. Sunday was the first day of our missions retreat or missions week. We started it off by first having church here with everyone. I don't know if you guys remember that. And then we were sent out with some prayers. And then we had lunch together. And then we went to Adri's party, right? Grad party, yes. But before that, we had some time of kind of quiet time for everyone. And then we went to our party. And then we had a big bonfire to start it off. And then I'm also going to be talking about our food progression. So we tried to make it somewhat of a world awareness / homeless awareness week. So as the week progressed, we steadily started taking away certain things and introducing a lot of cultural food that was very exciting for all of them, I'm sure. And by the end of it, I think on Thursday was our last full day, we had like rice for every meal. So we started progressing all the way down to just rice and beans, and Lexi made some really yummy crunchy rice that people had never tasted before. So it was an interesting experience. And I think there's a picture showing my meal is what I'm also supposed to talk about. All right, okay, I should talk about these. So we had it also that everyone had a personal plate, a personal bowl, and a spork, spoon, fork, knife thing. And if they wanted to eat with a clean utensil or a clean plate, they had to wash it. And that's going to be someone else talking about that. So next picture is, I'm also talking about cleaning. So they had these buckets outside that they had to do their dishes in. Everyone had to wash their dishes or else they wouldn't have a clean dish. There's some lovely people doing pots and pans, doing their dishes outside. Some food. That's a cultural dish, I believe. And what? Oh, it's just fried rice. That's some more rice, showing all the rice that we ate. And this was my cultural meal. So we had each leader who had gone to a different country. So Sarah, myself, Jess, and who was the last one? It was just the three of us. Oh, and we ate in Columbus. We went and had Thai food. So I had prepared a Senegalese meal of mafe, which is a peanut butter beef stew on rice. I know, Jimmy's face looks like he doesn't like it. That's what all the kids said as well. But if you ask them, they really loved it. So anyways, it was a community-style eating where everyone's kind of around a plate and they all eat off of it. And it was a little bit different because we normally always have our own plates and we can serve ourselves our own amount of food. But this way we had to kind of share with everyone just as they would in Africa. So, yeah. Oh, yes, sorry. Apparently I'm supposed to say where we were. We were at our house. Right on Old 39. I don't know if you drove past it all that week, but you would have seen 2 Yoder Toters and a couple cars and a bunch of people sitting out on the front porch playing games. But yeah, that's where we were for the week, was 20 of us crammed into our house, and someone else will explain how that worked.
So at the beginning of the week, Phil and Lexi sat us down. They gave us the heartbreaking news that there would be absolutely no hot water all week. Shutting off the whole hot water here. So obviously spending an entire week with 20 people in the same house with no hot water. The obvious issue is going to be the ice cold, relentless, freezing showers, right? And so everybody here, you can ask them, they say they were terrible, but in my opinion, they were breathtaking. That was Damon's joke, but he said I could use it, so I used it. So with the cold showers, you basically have 2 options, which was you can go shower in the morning after you wake up and you can have a heart attack. Or you can shower in the evening and then go out in the middle of the woods where we were sleeping and then get pneumonia. And the alternative to that, obviously, would be bucket showers, which is exactly what it sounds like. You fill a bucket of water in the morning, leave it out in the sunshine all day so it warms up and stuff, and then go out behind the garage with your swimsuit or whatever and dump it all over yourself. So, and the obvious question there is, does it really get you that clean? Probably not, but it's better than freezing to death. So we obviously had no laundry, so we had a clothesline. I think there was a picture of that. And then, so as much as this sucked. It was vital to, like the World Awareness Week, because, hot water is really rare in a lot of places, so we kind of live in luxury here. We take it for granted, and this week kind of just showed us how, it's not as essential as we think it is. There's always alternatives. And so I guess also my highlight, which we're supposed to share, is on Wednesday night, whenever we had guys and girls split up and we had a testimony night. That was just a really great night. It was a community night. We all really felt close. So that was my part of the week.
Okay, hi. I'm talking about the places where we slept throughout the week. So they also told us, they didn't tell us anything about not sleeping in the house until the day that we got there. So the first 2 nights, we actually just slept in the house. And then the next night was in the garage with like a sheet, like that. Yeah, a sheet in between the boys and the girls. And then the next night was in just like outdoors in tents. So that was pretty fun. And then the next night we were supposed to sleep outside, I'm pretty sure. But the weather we thought it was going to be bad, so we slept in tents again. But it wasn't bad. The weather wasn't bad. So yeah, I would say a challenge for me and kind of a highlight was Columbus, because I like going to the city and like being around the city. And then a challenge for me was in Columbus, because we didn't really see any homeless people. There wasn't very much out. So yeah.
I'm going to be talking about quiet time that we had every morning. So every morning we would get up and have breakfast, and then we would have 30 minutes of quiet time, and I think it was optional, but pretty much everyone did it. Lexi had prepared passages for us to read and then a couple questions to answer about it. So we just spent that time reading and answering those questions, and then we discussed it as a group later. And I think you can go next slide. And this is my cultural meal. So I made a meal from Zambia, and it is called shima. And it's basically like grits, but really hard. And so you use it, we took away their silverware, and you use the shima to pick up your food. So you have to like mold it in your hand, and then you use it to pick up. There's cabbage there, and the other stuff is kale, but it's supposed to be like collard greens. And then we had chicken. So yeah, I don't know how much they enjoyed it, but it was interesting. Oh, okay. I didn't prepare a highlight because I was told that I can share a low light or a bad part, because I thought that, but I'm not trying to be negative. But the night that we slept in the garage, we're all laying there, and I was next to Lily, and we were just trying to fall asleep, and apparently Matthew shared a joke, and it made Cole laugh, and so it made Phil laugh, and then Cole started laughing at Phil, and then Caden and Jackson were laughing at Cole because of the way that he was laughing. And it just went on for like half an hour. And it was 12 o'clock by the time they stopped laughing. And then we were laying there and we were like, they're finally done. Phil said he's done laughing. And then we hear Lydia and Kaylee whisper, oh my goodness, there's a spider. And they just kept talking about it, and they couldn't sleep until they killed it. So I don't think Lily and I got much sleep that night. But it was just really good to get to know them. So that would be my highlight.
So I'm supposed to talk about worship, and worship happened after quiet time. So we would go from quiet time, and then we would go into Phil's garage, and we would have worship. And every morning there would be a different pod that would do worship. So there was a lot of different songs that we heard, and everyone would play like different instruments and stuff. A highlight would probably be, it was actually very interesting trying different foods, even though all of them weren't the best. A low light would probably have to be the cold, freezing showers. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to talk about the morning discussion and devotional, which was after the quiet time and the worship. And during the quiet time, you were supposed to, there was a few scriptures and a few questions that you could look into and answer. And then there was a few of us older ones that kind of led the discussion and did some sharing, which was Sarah, Jessica, Matt, me, and Damon. And I thought that was just interesting to kind of lead the discussion and see what each person found in each scripture that we did and how they answered each question. And yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. And a highlight for me was on Wednesday, we went to 612. Operation 612 has a new place that they're starting up, and we helped with a lot of landscaping and stuff like that. And that was just pretty fun to do and see what the difference that we could make.
So I'm talking about pods, and basically what our pods are was all of us broke up into smaller groups, so at the end of the day we could talk about what happened. And in our pod it was me, Carson, Cole, and Luke. And so usually just after like the outreach of the day, we'd go back, and what it looked like was, well, for us, like the first 5 minutes we just tried to find Cole to see where he was napping, because he was always napping. It was awesome. And then we'd come back and we'd just talk about like what we did that day and how everybody perceived it and what we, and then we prayed for each other. And then sometimes conversation would wander to just whatever was on our minds, but it was a lot of fun. And that was definitely my highlight, was just being in a pod with those guys and getting to know them all. It was a lot of fun.
I'm talking about what we did in Columbus. So we went down and all the pods split up, and we went and talked to homeless people and gave them hygiene kits. It was like full of like soap and granola bars and just things they would need. And then we had to buy lunch, and we each got $1. So there were 4 people in my pod, so we each, altogether that was $4. So we went to Subway, and we told the lady we need something for $4. So she starts making a foot-long sub, and this other lady comes in, and we're telling her we need something for $4. And the other lady here, so she decides to buy our other half of the sandwich. So we got a foot-long sub and split it 4 ways, and we went to the park to eat it. And then we had to go and find someone to buy lunch for. So we go and we find this guy, we get him Subway, and he was really nice. Like, they just open up and talk to you. They're really friendly. And my highlight of the week was getting to know everybody really well.
I'm also talking about Columbus. So we had taken out a homeless person for lunch, and we got them Subway, and then we sat where they were sitting, and they were just sharing like their story and like how they got there. And then Phil and Trevor ate bananas with her, and Lydia and I prayed for her. And then we got lunch, and we went to Jimmy John's and got a 8-inch sub, and we split it. And then they were still hungry, so they ate bananas again. And my highlight was getting to know everyone and playing games with them.
Okay, so I also was supposed to talk about what we did in Columbus. I was in Matt, Carson, and Cole's pod, and so there was 4 people in our group, so we got $4 in total. We went to Jimmy John's and got like a day-old loaf of bread, I think. Yeah, it wasn't honestly that terrible, but yeah. And so my highlight was probably the day we were at the church playing with the kids. I had a really good time just enjoying talking to people. My not so fun part was the cold showers.
I'm talking about what we ate in Columbus. So my pod was me and Kaylee and Lexi Miller and Jenna. But Jenna and Lexi aren't here. So we took our $4 and we used it pretty wisely. So we combined it with the money we had for our homeless person, and we bought a pizza. And so we ate our pieces of pizza and gave the rest, which there were probably we gave them half of the pizza. And they were pretty cool. They were really thankful for it and couldn't find someone for a while. So we walked around, and it might have been a little bit cold by the time we got to them. But he was really thankful, so that was cool.
My pod also had 4 people, so we had $4. And we were kind of discouraged at the beginning because we couldn't find people. And so eating lunch was actually one of the first things that we did. But we walked into Jimmy John's because we knew that you can get day-old bread for 50 cents. Is that right? 50 cents? Yeah. And so we were like, yes, we can get like, I don't know, a lot of loaves of bread. And we walked up to the counter and she was like, we're out of day-old bread. So we became kind of sad and we turned the corner and walked into a convenience store and started looking around and everything was like $2.50, $3.50, and we're like, we can buy like one thing. So we bought a giant can of Pringles and a cookie and that was our lunch. We split it and it was not a whole lot, but they were troopers and did really well. Yeah, that's what we did. Is that all about? No.
All right, so I will be talking about our 612 project day. So when we pulled in there was like a bunch of different houses. I think I counted around 9 or so. And I think they expected us to only work on one of the houses. So when we started, trimming hedges, like you see up on the screen, and doing mulch, pulling weeds, cleaning out gutters. That was really fun. And then there was also a couple staircases that were filled with, I don't know, I think the one I cleaned out had at least 6 inches of dirt and glass everywhere. And then it ended up looking something like that towards the end, and we actually got 3 houses done. So it was really cool to see the unity, between the youth group and, just coming together as a team and getting a lot done. One of my highlights was just getting to know all the new youth a little bit better. I was used to, working with some of the old youth, and it was just really cool getting to know all of you a little bit better, and some of you one-on-one. And then one of the things that really stuck out to me was how much we could impact our local community here. And we don't actually have to go to Chicago like we had originally planned. We actually just stayed here in Sugar Creek and got to minister to the local people and the people of Ohio. So yeah, that's what stuck out to me.
I'm going to talk about on Wednesday when we went to the thrift store. My group that I went with, we went to Missions Thrift in Worcester, and we split up. Some people went and washed down furniture and stuff, and then other people split the clothes that people would bring in into good and bad. Some of the bad clothes were really stinky and gross. They were nasty. Anyway, and one of my highlights was our free time that we had, and just playing games, especially Resistance, and yeah.
I'm also going to be talking about the thrift stores. Half of my group, so it would have been Chrissy and myself, went with Lexi's pod to the Harvest Thrift up here in Sugar Creek. And we were doing a little different stuff. They already had clothes sorted, so we were just pricing them and kind of organizing them. We had these pretty neat little price guns that you could just shoot them right in the tags, and then we put them out on the displays. And I was actually working with one guy in the technology department. He asked if anyone here is super techie, and I was like, oh, I'm pretty good with software, computer, stuff like that. And all it was sorting through wires. You didn't have to know anything about any type of technology. But he was a pretty cool guy. His name was John. He was from Massachusetts. So we got to talking, and we found this old baseball video game. And we were talking about how cool it is, and he was going on and on about how much he loves baseball and this and that. And then I very lovingly let him know that the Red Sox are probably the worst team. And after that, he handed me this huge, this big pile of headphones to untangle. So I was there for hours trying to sort that out. But that was honestly probably one of my highlights, was talking to that guy. He was a Bible translator with the Wycliffe organization, and he had been living in Africa. So I let him know, I had done mission stuff too, and I was kind of at a crossroads, not knowing where I want to go, kind of in my future, and he gave me a lot of insight. So that was probably one of my highlights. And then a low point for me was one of the day that we were at 612. We were weeding a big flower bed, and I wish I was exaggerating when I told you we didn't know what was grass, what was weeds. You were just there pulling and raking for hours, and you'd make a tiny little dent. But yeah, all in all, it was good.
I am talking about babysitting. So Wednesday, when everyone else went to the thrift stores, my good pod, which was me, Sarah, Jenna, and Lexi, we babysat for a lady that signed up through 612. So like she signed up and then people could come babysit for her. So we were there for a couple hours and we played with the kids while she just went to go do stuff for her. Oh, and my favorite part was the quiet time because I liked that we like went off on our own and then we all came back and discussed.
I'm talking about the Wednesday evening, I think it was, after we went to the thrift stores and babysitting. We all came back to the house and we had a worship night. It was like half an hour long of worship. And then we split up, boys and girls, to share our testimonies, like a more intimate, smaller groups. And that was also my highlight, I think, because like the hour before, everybody was like freaking out because they're like, how am I going to do this? And so like I actually got to know a lot of people a lot better through that because they were like, this is my testimony. What do I share? What do I not share? And we just like all had that in common. And so we got to learn a lot about each other like before the testimonies. And yeah, it was just like a really intimate time. And then earlier that day, Lexi had like a bowl of all of our names in it. And she was like, I'm going to pick 2 people and those 2 people have to share in front of the whole group, boys and girls. And Caden and Cole got chose. They did really good. It was really cool. We were all like so nervous it was going to be us that got chose. So after that happened, we could breathe, and we went and did our outreach for the day. So that was definitely my highlight. A low light was probably Columbus was really hard because I was expecting like homeless people to be everywhere, but we couldn't really find anyone. But that, yeah, then once we found people, it was really fun. So it ended up being really good. But yeah, it's a good week.
I'm going to be talking about Thursday morning. We did like a prayer walk around Berlin and Sugar Creek, and 3 pods went to Berlin, and 2 pods stayed in Sugar Creek. Before, we did like a 10-minute listening prayer, so we just sat in silence, and then like we wrote down whatever came to our minds or whatever we heard. And my pod was in Sugar Creek, and it was me and Lexi and Jackson and Caden. And one of the things we like heard or was on our list was music. So we got to like downtown by the Cuckoo Clock and we heard music. So like we turned right and started going up, and the store beside Tax Matters was playing music. So we stopped and we prayed for that store, and we kept walking, and we realized my mom and Caden's mom worked at Tax Matters. So we went in and we prayed with our moms, and then we came back out and we were walking up whatever that road is called. And we saw Jackson's mom drive by. So she stopped and we prayed with her too. So it was really cool that we just got to pray for all our moms. And it was really cool for me to see how throughout like town, how there were different things that what we saw, there were those things. So and one of my highlights was Columbus. I really enjoyed walking around and talking to people.
I forgot to talk about the cultural food that I made. I think there's pictures somewhere on this slide. Yeah. Those are called pastelitos, which just means like little cake. And then inside of it is chicken. So it's kind of like imagine a deep fried fry pie with chicken on the inside. Damon was our fryer. He had a little accident and got oil all over him. But yeah, you kind of flattened cornmeal dough. Usually you're supposed to do it with your hand, but I am not that skilled, so I used a plate. And then you put chicken inside and kind of form it how you would a fry pie. And then with it, we had kind of like coleslaw type thing. You're supposed to boil cabbage, but I cheated and got prepackaged stuff. And then you just kind of make like a haystack and just put a bunch of lime and a bunch of salt and lots of spices with it.
All right, and on our last day on Thursday, we had a kids' play day, which a lot of you know about because you brought your kids, so thank you for that. And we played games in the gym, and we played with bubbles outside, and we had snacks, and it was a lot of fun just hanging out with kids from church, and yeah, it was a good time. But if you would, yeah, that's one of my favorite pictures. If you would, give them a round of applause because they were really nervous. You guys can go back up to your instruments. But they did awesome, and they had really good attitudes. So you heard them talk a little bit about when they found out. It was kind of a serious conversation. We were sitting in the basement. And we were like, so we have something to tell you. And they all just kind of looked at us, and we were like, you don't have hot water, and we're going to sleep inside and then outside, and we're going to eat a lot of rice. And they were all like, I should have known something. My mom gave you a tent. Like, we should have seen the signs for this. So it was pretty funny, but they had really good attitudes throughout the whole time. And one story to just give an example of this, I made rice one day, and it was for lunch, and I was like trying to do it ahead of time, and I was so on top of it. And we got into the kitchen, and I went to stir it, and it was kind of mushy. I was like, okay, this is fine. It's just mushy, like kind of sticky rice. And then the first person tasted it, and they were like, is it also supposed to be crunchy? So I somehow succeeded in making a rice that was both sticky and crunchy, and at the end of the meal, Damon had the great idea to pour milk and maple or brown sugar on top of it, and it made it a little bit better, and he was like, you should have done that in the first place. But yeah, the comment that was made, there was one of the youth were going through the line, and instead of saying like, this is really weird, why is it like this, he was like, never had rice like this before. So it made me feel a little bit better, but that was one of my lowlights. But my highlight was just seeing them come together as a group. I would walk out onto my porch, which was not very big, and it would be packed with all of them playing games. And it was such a beautiful thing. The day after we finished on a Friday, and the Saturday I walked out and almost started crying because no one was on my porch. But it was really good to just have them all there and all together, and we were in close quarters, but it was really awesome. So I think Phil wants to share a highlight.
Yeah, I forgot to share my highlight. I was so nervous. Anyways, my highlight was that it's not that funny, guys. My highlight was the confidence that I saw growing in the youth. Your kids grew so much in such a short amount of time. Like, we started off the week with everyone being a little bit timid about praying out loud. That's something that, even us as adults can sometimes get nervous when we have to pray out loud. And that was no different with them. They were nervous at the beginning of the week, and by the end of the week, I had people in my pod. It was when we were walking around in Berlin. A couple of them would actually come up and ask me. They're like, "Hey Phil, can I open or can I close this prayer?" Because we'd always have someone open and someone close. And at the beginning of the week, we were having to kind of encourage people and be like, "Hey, can you open? Can you close?" And by the end of the week, they were coming up to me and asking me if they could do that. And you guys should be proud of your kids and how much they grew, and challenge them to keep growing, because we were intentional that week, and it's easy to be confident and courageous when you're in an intentional community, but when that kind of dissipates and we're all kind of now back in our families, that intentionality can be lost. So I just encourage you parents, and you as a church as well, to encourage our youth to be confident, to keep growing, to pray out loud, to pray for people that they've never seen before, because that's what we're called to do, is to be courageous and to love and show that there are no outsiders to God's love. So thank you very much.